Sadly, this sharp decline of drinking culture over the last decade or two have not shown an empowerment bestowed on our younger generations, but rather a withdrawal. A withdrawal from society, from community, and yes, from culture. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Another Nobody podcast with me, your favorite nobody, Travis Myers. Today, all you got is me. It's just me today. And rather than doing a story time segment as I usually do when it's just me, I'm going to do a little bit about drinking culture. Now, I've mentioned drinking culture a few times on this podcast, and I would say several times when I've been a guest on other people's podcasts. And oftentimes people will ask me, what exactly do I mean by drinking culture? Or what is drinking culture to me? So today, I thought I'd do a little show about drinking culture. The way I view it is uh, its decline in recent decades and how I feel it has aided and also maybe mirrors the decline in Western civilization as a whole. All right. So where do I begin? Okay, well, Western civilization has had a very long relationship with alcohol. In fact, it's been a cultural cornerstone. If you think back to the Roman symposia, medieval taverns, and the post-prohibition happy hours that we had here in the States, all that drinking wasn't really about getting drunk. It was more of a social lubricant, a ritual of trust and communal bond from back in the times of the ancient Greeks to our 20th century pub culture. Drinking facilitated community, vulnerability, storytelling, and a person to person connection that few other activities could. Now, as most of you know, I grew up in New York City, a city with a very strong, storied, even you could say legendary drinking history. This country, speaking of history, the United States of America, was quite literally born in the pubs that dotted the original British colonies that would later become the first states. A handful of still exist today, such as Francis Tavern here in New York, which dates back to 1762 and is considered to be the oldest restaurant in the city. It was a regular meeting place for the Sons of Liberty, who, as it happens, were the guys that planned the Boston Tea Party back in 1773. But let's forget about the Sons of Liberty and go back to me and my observations. Now, I grew up, as many people in my neighborhood did, in a drinking family. And both my parents would, as many of the neighborhood residents did, stop by the corner pub, bar, tavern, or saloon several times a week after work and or on the weekends to get with neighbors and friends from the neighborhood, to gossip a little, catch up on the neighborhood news, watch a game, place a bet, pay a debt, you name it. Business, be it neighborhood, personal, family business, even actual business, often played out and was taken care of in the corner bar. And here in New York City, for literally hundreds of years, it always seemed as though there was a neighborhood bar almost on every corner where this business could take place. In fact, in our apartment, when I was growing up, when my stepfather or even us kids, when we got a little older, would say we're going downstairs, it always most certainly referred to the corner pub. Now, I got my first ever job when I was 11. And I was working at a candy store where I would package candy, then clean the place up after closing. But it wasn't long until I landed a position that would change my life. At the grand old age of 12, I became the Sunday dishwasher at Willie's on 3rd Avenue, where I would scrub the dishes by hand in a 3-bay sink using a rag and Tide laundry detergent from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. every Sunday for a nice new crisp $20 bill, which at that time was a little bit more than minimum wage. And I mean, I was set. Between that job and my other after school gig at the candy store, I always had a little change in my pocket. But the bar would turn out to be much more than a job. To me, it was more of a baptism into the real world, if you will. I learned more in that little dive bar than I would ever learn in school. I learned about the world, about politics, be it national, local, or neighborhood, how to speak to people, music, women, and soon I landed another gig at a somewhat nicer place about 8 blocks south called Churchill's. At that place, I was the porter. I would go in before the place opened, clean up the walk-in fridge, bring stuff up for the chefs. I'd set up the bar and ice everything down for the day, and basically do whatever the boss or bartenders wanted done before they opened. And again, it was another really great educational experience for me. You see, most of these places were more than just drinking holes or meat markets to hook up with the opposite sex. For years, literally years, hundreds of years, these places were the hubs of the neighborhoods that they sat in. And all of the news and politics of the neighborhood would flow through them. If you wanted or needed to know anything at all that was going on in your neighborhood or the city as a whole, the local bar is where you could find out more about it. Hell, at that time, back when we had real journalists who wrote honest stories, you would usually find them digging up the dirt in a local pub. I mean, greats like, what's his name? Jimmy Breslin, all the way back to my good friend Alexander Hamilton, who founded the New York Post, got their news from the local pubs because that's where it all was. And this didn't just work that way here in New York, but all across America, in every city, every town, and every state, as well as all over Europe. See, the corner bar isn't an American invention, not by a long shot. It's been the Western world's meeting place, serving oftentimes almost as a living room of sorts for communities for hundreds and hundreds of years. All over Europe, every major decision was discussed and decided upon in a pub or a tavern. Wars, revolutions, weddings, business deals, sales, I don't know, you name it. It was most likely decided in a bar of some kind. So again, back to me now. So yes, for years, the street kids growing up in New York City, the bar was always like a home base for the neighborhood. It's where we learned about life, politics, the opposite sex, blah, 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 everything I just mentioned before, how to behave in public, how not to behave in public. All of this, which basically just boils down to human interaction, something that, in comparison, my generation and generations before mine, which all grew up without computers or smartphones, seem to excel in, compared to many young people today who seem to want to bury their heads in their phones and on Netflix like ostriches rather than meet new people or have a conversation with a person they don't even know. Now, before I continue down this road, and while we're talking about bars, beers, and booze, let me take a minute to talk about one of my new favorite things. Right here, this stuff, Shanky's Whip. This, my friends, is some really great stuff. It's Irish whiskey with a little hint of vanilla, caramel, and cream. And I'm here to tell you, it's simply magic. So the next time you're raising a glass, please fill it with some Shanky's Whip and think of me, your favorite nobody, Travis Myers. That's good stuff. This is a 2024 American Eagle gold coin, which I bought along with several others last year. I'm very happy to report that its value has gone up over 40% in the first year. See, I was encouraged to buy some gold by a financial advisor friend who suggested I be more diversified with my investments. She said gold and silver was a very safe place to park some money, as well as a good hedge against inflation. So I took her advice, and all I can say is I wish I had bought more, as it's been so very, very good to us so far. Now, I purchased these gold coins from the good people over at stackingboise.com, who could not have been nicer, more knowledgeable, or more helpful. Now, I'm certainly no financial expert, but I will say from experience, if you're looking to make an investment, buy yourself some gold. And some real gold that you could hold in your hand, just like this coin you see here. And if you do, then do like I did and get with the good folks over at stackingboise.com. I'm telling you, they're good people, they took good care of me, and they'll take good care of you. Again, that's stackingboise.com. And hey, tell them Travis sent you. Listen up, this one's important. As a rule, I never stump for charities, because most of them don't hand out as much money as they collect, and that's a sad fact. But not Tunnel to Towers. These guys do the right thing. They have an A+ rating from Charity Watch, and a 4-star rating from Charity Navigator. That's like the #1 charity watchdog group, with over 93% going towards the families of veterans and first responders who have lost their lives in the line of duty. For only $11 a month, and it's easy. Just go to t2t.org. That's letter T, number 2, letter T.org, and hit the donate button. Do the right thing and do good for the families and the veterans and the first responders who do good by you. It's only $11 a month. Thanks, and all the best. All right. Welcome back, my friends. Now, before I continue, let me state that I am not condoning or encouraging you to go out and make a drunken mess of yourself. But what I am pointing out is that I do absolutely believe that the decline of the drinking culture in Western nations has definitely aided and contributed in the political divide and the decline of Western civilization as a whole. How so, Travis? You may ask. Well, listen, and I'll tell you. So, over the last 15 to 20 years or so, our traditional attachment to alcohol and the bar life in the West has eroded dramatically, particularly among the young, far from it being a triumph of the more health-conscious among us. This shift is a symptom of greater fractures in our society. I'm going to get a little deep now, but stick with me. In my humble, nobody opinion, it shows a decline in Western civilization, manifesting itself in a greater abundance of individual isolation, economic stress and precarity, and a retreat from the adventurous, unpredictable joy of human interaction. Now, I'm not looking to beat up on the younger generations. Please, get that straight. But facts is facts, and here is some facts for you. Alcohol consumption as a whole peaked in Western civilization in the last 20th century, but rather than a gradual decline, has simply plummeted among younger people. Here in the United States, adult drinking rates were 54% in 2024, the lowest in 90 years, which was back during the Great Depression times. It's down 72%, 72% among those under 35 years of age, compared to the same age group 20 years ago. Just 20 years ago. Now, this is not uniform, however. It's mostly Generation Z drinkers who have fallen off the boat and onto the wagon, followed by millennials. Gen Xers and boomers still love to bend the elbow on a fairly regular basis. And here is where I think we have a societal problem. Again, why? You see, when I was a young man, I would often step into a local haunt after a day's work or maybe after a night of being out on the town. And as a late teen or being in my early 20s, I may pull up a bar stool next to a man who's in his 50s, 60s, or even 70s. And we'd have a conversation. And we'd be joined by the man or the woman behind the bar who was often older than me, but younger than the old fellow that was sitting next to me. And here we would have three opinions from three different generations, three different walks of life about every possible topic under the sun. And let me tell you, it was a beautiful thing, a truly beautiful meeting of the minds where different, well, there were different worlds where different worlds and experiences collided in the best possible way. Here there was a true community being built, and the neighborhood being held together by this glue as we would respect one another, remember one another, possibly celebrate birthdays, weddings, and even wakes as the years went on. We became friends. We shared a community, a neighborhood, and a culture. Now, fast forward that scene of a much younger, much handsomer me in a local dive bar, so let's say the exact same scene around 2008, which was 25 years later. And next to nothing would be different. Other than, of course, I would be in my 40s, somewhat less attractive, and this time I'd probably be running the bar. But right around this time, the world as a whole, and in particular, Western societies, would see a shift in an unraveling of societal cohesion and community. A civilizational slump, if you will, began to take place just after the 2008 economic decline and the rise of technology, and more technological entertainment, which both priced out and sort of elbowed out the drinking culture and community that we're talking about here. Millennials were the generation that began this trend, opting to stay home and play video games. It was just cheaper, easier, and less of a commitment than going out for an evening to meet friends, or even better, meet strangers who would become new friends. The smartphone killed conversation, witty banter, and even manners by limiting text to under 140 characters. Pornography, something that once had to be sought out, was now omnipresent and seemed to satisfy most young men and even women enough that they would remain in pajama pants all day, every day, without even thinking about making an effort to remotely be more attractive to the opposite sex, and would turn millions of people into virtual hermits, living virtual realities at home rather than being out. Bars, pubs, taverns began shuttering their doors by the thousands all over the West. The United Kingdom saw more than 1,000 pubs close in 2024 alone. 1,000 pubs in 1 year. The organic bar scene, as anyone over 40 once knew it, has suffered considerably, all but killing face-to-face peer contact for half of millennials and most of Gen Z, who sadly prefer to scroll on TikTok or on Instagram in between gaming and online porn. A combination of weed and psych medications are now the new way to unwind. But unwind from what? A life of excessive leisure spent in sweatpants and pajamas? Too much Netflix? Too much DoorDash? Obesity is a plague. Anxiety, depression, self-loathing, and loneliness. So much loneliness. Shall I go on with this nonsense? No good, absolutely no good, can come from locking oneself away from the world and staring at screens for hours and hours at a time. And sadly, and I do mean sadly, the decline of drinking culture, which may sound good on paper, is far from good at all. It again is only a symptom of a once grand community, a community-oriented culture that now is in decline. Our younger generations have not inherited, nor do they know, the liberties we all once felt, spending our pay after a long week's worth of work on a few beers and some shots. That feeling a young man gets when he works up the nerve to ask a girl for her number and she says yes, or the feeling a young woman gets when she's approached by the fella she's been eyeing all evening. Because all they need to do today is swipe left or swipe right on their cold little phones for a yes or a no. What else? What else have they lost? Well, the art of conversation, the trust of their friends who see them both at their best and their worst, the bonds of friendship and community that come from being with people you can truly be yourself with, by sharing a drunken confession, a flirtatious comment given and taken without offense, and also to be put in your place and told to get over yourself when you're out of line. And even to the extent that things on occasion may get uncomfortable or even physical. Well, what do I say to that? Welcome to the real world. And yes, get over yourself. Sadly, this sharp decline of drinking culture over the last decade or two have not shown an empowerment bestowed on our younger generations, but rather a withdrawal. A withdrawal from society, from community, and yes, from culture. A denial of oneself, a loss of lust, a lust for fun, lust for adventure, love, in essence, a loss of the lust for life. And it breaks my heart to see so many great drinking establishments close their doors year after year over the past couple decades. But more than that, it breaks my heart to know that my grandchildren won't be able to drink in the same pubs and bars that my grandparents did. Because, yes, not that long ago, in every town and city in America, in every town and city across Europe, there were generations who shared two things: culture and community. Sure, there were still generational divides, political differences, disagreements of all sorts. But very rarely was there something that couldn't be agreed upon, or at least come to terms with, over a beer and a shot. So, maybe go grab one with someone soon. Or maybe go make a new friend. I guarantee someone is waiting for you, whether you know them or not. That's all I got for you. All the best, my friends. Hey, how you doing? It's me again, another nobody, Travis Myers. And today we're going to talk whiskey. I know most of you think of me as an all-American patriotic type guy, and you are right. But when it comes to whiskey and drinking whiskey, which I do, I always go for the Irish stuff. And my choice when it comes to the Irish stuff is Powers Irish Whiskey. Established back in 1791. It's a triple distilled, oak-aged whiskey. Powers is simply magic. It also happens to be the #1 selling whiskey in Ireland, which has got to say something, because if it's good enough for the Irish, it's good enough for you. So the next time you raise a glass, fill it with Powers, and think of me, another nobody, Travis Myers. Oh, do the right thing. Hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any more of my nonsense. Have a good day, my friends.